Hello everyone, my name is Cliff Carter and the purpose of this video is to describe the similarities between pulpit plagiarism and academic plagiarism. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, academic plagiarism occurs when a writer steals and passes off words or ideas as one's own without crediting the source. Let me give you an example. Let's say for instance I'm writing an academic paper titled How to Be Filled with the Holy Spirit, and I want to use a phrase from the late Leonard Ravenhill or the late Charles Spurgeon. Let's say I find my phrase, I implement it into my paper, but I fail to use quotations around that phrase, but I also forget to use the author's name at the end of the phrase. Folks, this is academic plagiarism. So in order to, let me back up a little bit. Not only have you committed academic plagiarism, but you've also robbed the author. You robbed him of his general ideas and his authentic work. So in order to avoid it, it's very important that you cite your borrowed ideas and summaries and phrases that you put into your paper. And because if you don't, let me tell you, your instructor is definitely going to let you know. As I said, instructors find this to be unethical or illegal. But when I look at pulpit plagiarism, some pastors don't share that same perspective. I was looking at an article called SermonCentral.com. It's written by a general editor by the name of Ron Forsyth. And within this article that Ron is putting together, he uses a quote that Haddon Robinson uses about pulpit plagiarism. He says that pulpit plagiarism is borrowing someone else's words and passing them off as one's own, whether in speech, print, or performance. Let me give you an example. Hello, Reverend Doolittle. How you doing? This is Reverend Dumore. Well, good afternoon, Reverend Dumore. How you doing? I'm just blessed, Reverend Doolittle. I just want to call and see if you had have you heard about the message that I gave on Sunday? Reverend Dumore, I did not. How'd it go? Reverend Doolittle, let me tell you. We had an altar call. 400 people came down and gave their life to Christ. It was that Jesus Christ was in the pulpit himself. Reverend Dumore, are you serious? Reverend Doolittle, I wouldn't lie to you. It was such a blessing. Oh, Reverend Doolittle, I'll be talking about your sermon. You think I could borrow that sermon? Reverend Doolittle, I'll do anything for you. Well, Reverend Doolittle, let's do this. You know what? Go ahead and put that outline together. Better yet, go ahead and just type out everything you said word for word, and I'll present it to my congregation. We're leading people to salvation, right? Reverend Doolittle, you got a deal. Reverend Doolittle comes to church Sunday morning, steps up in God's pulpit, and he conveys that message to his congregation, but he fails to credit his source. Reverend Doolittle should have did more. He should have gave the credit to Reverend Dumore. So basically, he has committed pulpit plagiarism. Like I said before, a lot of pastors don't share the same perspective. I was looking at an article by Ed Stetzer. It came from the website Christianity Today. And there's a quote in there by Adrian Rogers who kind of shares a different perspective. He doesn't really talk about he doesn't see anything wrong with pulpit plagiarism. He basically says, if my bullet fits your gun, go ahead and shoot. After I read these comments, I was like, okay, Adrian Rogers, who is basically a former pastor from Bellevue Baptist Church at Memphis, Tennessee, he's basically, what I received from there is that basically he is saying that if my outline, if my documents, everything I typed up, and if I give these to you, you use them, and it fits your sermon, fits your congregation, you go ahead and use it. We're leading people to salvation. We're leading people to Jesus Christ. It don't matter how they get there as long as they get there, right? Maybe I'm over-exaggerating, but that's what I received from it, In my opinion, when pastors step into God's pulpit, they are entering into a sacred place where sacred events are taking place. The Holy Spirit is to deliver pastors, ministers, divine instructions in what they are to convey to the congregation. So not only are you committing pulpit plagiarism when you don't give that Reverend Dumore his credit, you are also robbing God. How are you robbing God? Well, I think any time that a pastor or a youth minister wants to convey a message to his congregation, it's very important that he takes out the time, spends it with God, meditate on his word, read his word, fasting, praying, building that intimate relationship with him so the Holy Spirit can interact with you and say, here's my message. This is what I want you to convey to your congregation. this is something that is very important. You cannot be a minister or a pastor and choose not to spend that time with God. It's very important that you spend that time with God. I mean, this is how you become a more mature pastor, a more mature youth minister, and ultimately you become a more mature son, because he is our father and we are his son. We are his daughters. And it's very important that we take up the time and dwell in his presence, stay in his presence, and like I said, stay in his word, feed on his word. We got to treat his word. I heard a pastor say this once. I can't remember his name, so I hope I'm not plagiarizing. Quote, you got to treat it like necessary food. I mean, like, for instance, our bodies need physical food every day in order to receive that energy to perform throughout the day. Just like our spirit. You can't forget your spirit. Your spirit needs to be nourished as well daily. If you don't nourish it well, guess what? Your spirit's going to get a little hungry. You might fall into spiritual poverty. So I hope this helps when I talk about the similarities between pulpit plagiarism and academic plagiarism. Take this, use it, ultimately to advance God's kingdom. God bless you all, and good night.